everyone, and welcome to the backyard. And I am glad to be home, and I hope you all enjoyed last week's episode up at the gardens at Texas A&M University, the Leach Gardens at Texas A&M University. What a great teaching garden they have going on up there. I was very impressed. And Joe, I'm sorry you missed all the fun, but are you happy to be back behind the camera this week?
I'm always happy to be in the backyard with you. It really doesn't matter what the circumstances are.
Well, how nice of you. Now, I have some other amazing news. Gosh, it's so good to be home. And the news is that my little baby chickens have finally done the big job. You know the big job. You know exactly what I'm talking about. Look at their little tiny eggs. Aren't they cute?
Pick one up so they can see the scale.
They're so tiny. Yeah. Look at them.
Those first ones come out a little smaller than they will eventually become.
So this is one of our Easter eggers. We have at least one that we know lays green eggs, blue eggs. I've got to figure out from our varieties which one is the other one, because that one Easter egger that we have is not the only one laying 2 green or blue eggs a day. So we've got to have another one that's laying some green and blue eggs as well. I need to find out a little bit more about that. Let's move on to the meat of today's garden talk, and that is basil. So, hello, did you want to go out in the garden? Yes, you little stink bird. Come on, let's go do some gardening. All right, here we go. Yes. This is teriyaki. Teriyaki and kung pao like to get out pretty regularly. All right, so basil. It's basil season, lots and lots of basil. The basil does like the warmth. However, if your basil's not doing well, it could be one of 2 reasons. One reason could be that you aren't cutting your flowers off. I'm going to put her back because she's being a stinker.
Why don't you open up that trap door?
She doesn't want to be on TV right now. This trap door right here, this one's hard to open. Go back inside your home. Good. That's how we catch a chicken, by the way, in case you're ever wondering how that happens. Most of them, not all of them. That little pretty black one, Maleficent, she flies, like full-on flies. Yeah. You found her out here the other day and had to get my help out here to come catch her.
She got 10 feet of air.
Yeah, she's little, and those are the ones you may have to trim their wings if they become a problem for your neighbors. But those big fat ones like that, they're lazy, and they're all like, okay, fine, pick me up, throw me back in, whatever. All right. Oh, come and look. Oh, look, there's another one here. So easily distracted today. And look down here. Cantaloupes, cantaloupes.
2 hanging cantaloupes?
Yes, I have 2 hanging cantaloupes. Okay, so let's talk basil for real. 2 reasons that your basil might not be doing good. One is that it's gone to flower and you need to trim the flowers out. That will keep all the leaves nice and thick and heavy. Or if you want it to go to flower, that's perfectly fine. Now, that isn't the case for all basil because some basil flowers. I'll show you that in just a second. But the basil that everyone is used to, with the big fat leaves that you see on the pretty pizzas and stuff like that, that basil, you want to cut the flowers out as soon as you start to see it. Because once it starts to seed and flower, the leaves get really small, it spends all of its energy making basil babies, and then it will die and flower out, okay? Then the second reason you might be having a problem with your basil right now is that they just need more water. This time of year, I water once a day, sometimes twice a day. We heavy soak the garden every 2 to 3 days with the sprinkler. So there's a lot of watering going on to have a garden that looks this good in August, okay? All right, so let's come over here and start. You can see right here, you can actually see it looks like this one may be getting a little bit too much water because all of these yellow leaves can show you that a basil plant could be getting too much water. But you can tell that this sweet basil has gone to flower, and so it's real lanky and leggy. All right, so 2 leaves, I've showed you this before. You want to cut above the 2 leaves, and what'll happen is next time you'll have these 2 will come out and you'll have 2 new sprouts coming out like that, right? So I'm going to go back in over here. I'm going to pop out above the 2 leaf mark. All different kind of shears work. A lot of my shears, I need to get new shears. They need to be clean and de-rusted and all of that. And so I'm using the scissors today. These are really also quite fun, not just for cooking. Now I'm going to use all of this that I cut today for making pesto. You can make some really, really simple, delicious pesto. Pesto is the green basil that you're using. Then you're also, with your pesto, you want some pine nuts, some Parmesan, a little bit of olive oil, some garlic, I believe. It's really, really simple. You just need your little grinder, blender, whatever type of thing you use. And then you can save that, and it can be used for a very simple pesto, chicken pesto pasta. That's what I like to make with it. You can put it on your pizzas. There's lots of places. But basil is such a nice companion plant for your garden, and such a beautiful plant for making flower arrangements in your house. The smell is nice. The flowers are nice. Now, this is sweet basil, what you saw here, pretty basic Italian basil. Everyone knows it, lots and lots of seeds. I heavily seed this as a companion plant. This, however, right here is Thai basil. Thai basil is a perennial in our area. This basil will be gone once the winter comes. Now this sweet basil, I want you to point over here so everyone knows what I mean when I say that. This sweet basil, this Italian basil, it will be gone once the cool winter sets in, the cool weather sets in. This, however, will just go to smaller leaves. It may still have some flowers on it, but it usually maintains it. If we get a super hard freeze, it might have a problem, but generally it can make it through that as well. But look how beautiful this particular plant and flower is. So it's so nice to use in nice flower arrangements as well. I think everyone should grow Thai basil in addition to the other basil that they use at different times of year, because Thai basil is very good for the pollinators. As you saw me hanging out down there, you could see all the different little wood bees and buzzers coming around. Yeah, did you have a question? Okay, cool. All right, so down here you can see how much companioning I am doing with basil. I put basil pretty much everywhere, and if I have any peppers, tomatoes, eggplants, any of that stuff growing, I put a lot of basil in for those particular plants. Now over here you can see actually 3 different types of basil. Here's a Genovese basil. It's got a little bit more of a pointy, serrated edge. Giving them a trim, giving them hedge cleaning, right? Now this is what you would call that Italian, the big leafed basil. This is the stuff you see on those pretty pizzas with the big fat leaves, or on your caprese salads, things like that. And it smells so good. Now I'm just doing that same thing again. I'm going down 2 leaves, popping up the 2 leaves. Now, over here is a little bit of a different basil. This is the Tulsi basil. Some people also call it the holy basil. It has got a very, very sweet smell. And you can mix all of these basils up in your pesto. I do. It actually makes a little bit more of a different flavor for your basil, for your pesto, in that it just gives a little bit more texture and variety to the different spices that are in your profile. But I love this basil particularly for small little flower arrangements because it has such a beautiful sweet smell. It's almost like candy. And it has these pretty little tiny flowers on it too. And it tends to stay pretty flowering most of the time. So then of course, same thing. And you can see where if they've got a little bit of yellow on them, that means they're probably getting a little bit too much water. And then just trimming them up. Now if I'm cutting for a flower arrangement, I want to cut a little deeper if I can, so that I can decide where in the flower arrangement I need it to go. So on some of these I have to look at it and go, well, how far down can I go in order to get the nicest little stem to use in a little vase, in a flower vase. Okay? So see over here, you can tell that some of this stuff has really started to get leggy and long, and it's doing a lot of flowering. It hasn't gotten as much water. So you can tell it doesn't look as fat and happy and healthy as some of the other stuff. So this is the stuff I definitely have to get out of here for all of my delicious pestos. And you can see all of my tomatoes that I still have tomatoes, they all have some basil. Now you can see different varieties. You can tell the way they look, even in the same pot. You can tell this is a big fat Italian basil leaf, and this is a, this may be the Genovese or it may not be, I'm not 100% sure, but it's a different variety, a little bit different variety. Okay, Now, I want to show off all the different hidden spots that I've got basil, because every single pot that I put a pepper or a tomato in, I also put some basil seed in the bottom of it. So I buy sweet Italian basil in bulk. I try to get as much of it as I can. I do not get fearful about over planting. I just plant lots of basil, and it comes up a little bit of everywhere. Look right here in this pot. A nice little shot of my butt. All right, here. Pretty basil, this one here needs to get trimmed off. Now, some of these, when you've got a kitchen garden and someone in the house goes, I need basil, and you have to run outside, these are the ones you're looking for, is these quick, close to the house. Let me grab you some basil real quick and just top them off. Lots more over here in all my little containers where I'm trying to keep my tomato plants alive through the summertime. Needing to get back over here and just get these guys all nicely trimmed up. You can see, I think it's so important to understand exactly how you're supposed to trim your flowering herbs. See all of these? All of this is just that basic Italian basil. And then I recognize where over the years, be able to get to me through there. this footpath has overgrown. That I have no idea whether this reseeded on its own. It probably reseeded on its own, who knows, but it came up underneath the marigold over here in a footpath. So I'm gonna definitely trim it way back. I may lose it, but that's okay. And you can see it's getting a little bit more water than it probably wants. But gosh, look how big and beautiful those leaves are. You see that? And you can go back in, like if your plants are pretty small and you don't want to take the whole plant, but you do have some big nice leaves like that, you can go ahead and say, okay, well I'm going to go ahead and do this above the 2-leaf, but you can cut those leaves off if you want them, the big ones like that. And then you can use them. See how pretty those are? Those are the types, the big types that you use on sandwiches and things like that. This is definitely a Genovese variety. There's also purple. There's some purple basil. There are many different varieties. I began using a variety called the Emma, which is a sweet basil. It has a big leaf as well. That's a really nice variety. But don't be afraid of trying all the different pretty colored basils, all the different mixtures of basil. And anytime that we have temperatures of 70 degrees or more, which is a lot down here, basil does pretty good. It's gonna get knocked back in a freeze situation. If you let it be and let it flower, it's gonna go out at some point. So if you want it to exist, aside from, there's 2 perennials that I know of for sure. Cinnamon basil and Thai basil. Both of those grow perennially in our area and are fantastic for beautiful flower arrangements as well as using in your food, and great to attract the pollinators as well. So please subscribe to my YouTube channel, because that helps me be able to continue to do more awesome videos and for more good gardening stuff for you guys. All right, I love you all. Have a wonderful Sunday, and I am happy to be home, and I hope you all are having a great weekend. I will see you all very soon.